and it's been worse in every year of your mayoralty. So you've introduced this shift to personal robbery. That was not my question.
London is on edge, and the London Assembly just erupted. Neil Garratt goes head-to-head with Mayor Sadiq Khan, exposing shocking rises in knife crime, robbery and violent attacks across the city. From skyrocketing personal robberies to controversies over crime data, this debate leaves no stone unturned. How does Sadiq Khan defend the safety of Londoners? Are the statistics hiding the real picture? The exchange touches on austerity, police numbers, and the mayor's controversial policies, sparking outrage across the chamber. Watch closely, because what happens next will shock you, and it's a story the Labour Party would rather keep quiet. Make sure you watch until the end to see the full confrontation and the hard truths revealed. If you care about London, public safety, and holding politicians accountable, like, share, and comment to make sure this video gets seen.
Garratt?
You were just talking about violence reduction, and in your answer earlier you were talking about homicide, which is something you've been talking about all week. Now, I appreciate people challenging Donald Trump fake news if they just replace it with fake news of their own. So, the last year of Mayor Johnson's mayoralty, there were 9,721 knife offences in London. Last year, there were 16,147. That's a huge increase. And in fact, every year of your mayoralty has been higher than the last year of Johnson's mayoralty. Even the pandemic year, when everyone was locked in their homes half the year, had more knife crimes in London than under Boris Johnson. I'm sure you're going to say you regret that increase. Do you also regret trying to gaslight Londoners and tell them that the evidence that they see and the data in the police statistics is wrong?
I thank the member for his question. For certain crimes, the way the data is recorded is different now to what it was in previous years. Knife crime is one of those. There are certain crimes that are recorded exactly the same, homicide being a good example. There are some data that we can get objectively that is clearly the same. Those who go to hospitals with injury, clearly that won't change in terms of definition. So what I can share with him is compared to 2016 and now, there are 13,900 fewer incidents of violence with injury. As I said, 44% reduction in young people go to hospitals with a knife, and the lowest homicide rates in history on a per capita basis since records began, 1.1 per 100,000. We can go back to 2016 and 2015 compared to 100,000. It was higher than 1.1. I do accept, though, crime is too high in London. I do accept high volume crime, shoplifting, personal robbery, personal theft is too high. Antisocial behaviour is too high. Acquisitive crime is too high. Homicide is too high. One violent crime is one too many, so we're going to carry on bearing down on those crimes.
You're cherry-picking statistics and you're trying to pretend that things are getting better. Let's look at robbery. If you break down the knife crime stats and specifically focus on robbery, and let's be clear what this means. This means an innocent person going about their day is confronted by a violent man threatening them with a knife to hand over their valuables. Last year of Boris Johnson's mayoralty, 4,500. That is a lot too many. But last year, 10,017. It's more than doubled. Again, every single year of your mayoralty, more people in London were threatened with a knife, robbed at knife point for their valuables, than the last year of Boris Johnson. The figures have got worse. Every single year of your mayoralty is worse than what you inherited. How can you tell Londoners that it's getting better?
Well, using the definition of personal robbery on a like-for-like basis, it's gone down 15% in the last year. Personal theft, gone down 25% in the last year. How has it gone down?
To be clear, hang on, I didn't say personal robbery, because this includes business robbery, where, let's say, someone running a corner shop is threatened with a knife. That would count as a business robbery. All of that together, personal robbery and business robbery, Londoners threatened at knife point for their valuables, that has doubled, more than doubled, during your mayoralty, and it's been worse in every year of your mayoralty. So you've introduced this shift to personal robbery. That was not my question.
I'm happy to talk about theft from a shop, if that's where he wants to go. There's been a 25% reduction in this year in theft from shops, and that's one of the reasons for that is we doubled the size of the team in the West End.
So is that better now or worse than it was in Johnson's last year?
Look, Can we allow the Mayor to answer the question, then you come back and you get the opportunity to do that?
But I've been quite clear from 2016 about the consequences of austerity. I'm the guy that explained that when you cut a third...
So he's changing the topic, Chair. He's changing the topic. I asked him about violence, and he's changing the topic and not answering my question, is he? Because he knows that every single year of his mayoralty, the crime figures the robbery figures are worse. And before you get on to police numbers, Boris Johnson inherited about 31,000 Met police officers. He handed over to you about 31,000 Met police officers. Currently, there are about 31,000 Met police officers. That is not the explanation for this.
Sorry, we've just moved on to police officers
and
now.
The population's gone up by more than 1.1 million. But let's deal with the facts, which is this. We've had record austerity since 2010 up until last year. We've lost £1.2 billion, which is a third of our core funding. Police numbers went down to 29,000 as a consequence of the previous government's cuts. And I was the person making it quite clear about the consequences of this austerity. So crime did go high in a number of areas, including homicide. What we've done is from City Hall, trying to fill that massive hole left by central government by more than doubling investment in the police, at the same time as setting up the country's violence reduction unit, make huge progress on serious violence, but still more to do in other areas as well. And where you can do a like-for-like comparison, homicide's the obvious one. Those who die from a gun is an obvious one. Violence with injury is an obvious one because there are objective ways of measuring those. They've all gone down.
I think it's very clear that every time I brought up knife point robbery, knife crime, the Mayor changed the subject. I think I will leave it there. It's very clear that he has spent this week and this morning gaslighting Londoners about what they see with their own eyes.
Ahmed?
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, Mr Mayor, and Happy New Year to you and your family. Mr Mayor, you continue to fund the Violence Reduction Unit, which is one of the actions that you took. It was the first violence reduction unit in England. And you've spoken about the impact of that and other actions that you've taken, which it may be an inconvenient truth, but has led to the safest year that we've had in London in a decade, which many people in this chamber and those who wish to do London down don't want to acknowledge. Mr Mayor, could you tell us how you will be building on that success this coming year?
Well, thank them for our good wishes and greetings. So one of the things that I'm quite clear on is, without in any way excusing criminality, understanding why it happens, particularly serious violence. And I think we will have a public health approach to address that. I think deprivation, poverty, alienation, lack of opportunity are all factors. You go back 100 years, it's the most deprived communities in our city where there's been the greatest crime, most victims and actually most perpetrators as well. So what we've sought to do since I've become mayor is be both toughen crime with enforcement, more than doubling support for the police in terms of investment, but also toughen the complex causes of crime by funding the country's first violence reduction unit. We've provided positive opportunities for more than 500,000 young people, after-school clubs, weekend clubs, holiday schemes, mentors, youth workers in police stations, youth workers in hospitals. There is an 80% reduction in reoffending of those young people. There's a 75% reduction in harm of those young people as a direct consequence, in my view, of the VRU. The most startling statistic from the stuff published this week wasn't the fact we've got the lowest homicide rate since records began in London on a per capita basis, but there are 44% fewer young people going to A&Es with a knife injury. There are 13,900 fewer violent people injured per year as a direct consequence of our policies. So we're going to build on that. We're currently negotiating / lobbying with the government for funding for next year, both for the police and for the VRU. And I'm hoping over the course of the next few weeks to, when the budget process is complete, report back what we've managed to do for next year.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Thank you, Chair.
Assembly Member Rani.
Thank you, Chair. So one of your key actions as Mayor of London, despite opposition from certain groups, was to fund universal free school meals for all primary school children in London, so that now every state a primary school child in London benefits from that scheme. Now, you mentioned your opening answer to the question about the milestone of reaching 100 million free school meals. Can you tell us about the educational but also the impact in terms from a health perspective that's having on young people in London?
Excuse me, there's not been regret from the past two questions. So if the same rules could apply, Lord Duval, I'd be so grateful.
The same rules will. Assembly Member O'Reilly, had you finished?
Do you regret funding universal free school meals?
All
Like
I'm
all
waiting,
things, if
Church,
only
for the
people just
Edith
wait
PF
for a few minutes.
soundtrack to begin in relation to this. I don't regret rejecting the advice from the Conservatives and providing universal free school meals. I remember at Hustings them saying there's no such thing as a free meal. The shame of that. And they will soon say there's no such thing as a free NHS or free police service or free defence. This is a classic example of the difference between us and others, which is, I think, the universal provision of free school meals isn't just of itself a great thing to do because you're alleviating the stress of those families who are struggling, but also we can see the benefits in terms of children attending more, behaving better and performing better as well in their classroom. Less tension between schools and parents in terms of chasing up the debt for free school meals. But also these children who perform better now will perform better as adults as well because productivity will go through the system. So I have no regrets in relation to this policy, and as long as I'm Mayor, we're going to carry on doing this.
If this video opened your eyes to what's really happening in London, make sure to like, share and subscribe to keep these truths alive. Don't let this get silenced. Spread it now.